Alright, lads, so today continuing on with the new character showcases. Previously we did showcase Askin, recommend you guys check him out. He's a very solid Link's farmer, a really good character for new players in my opinion. But for today's video we're here to have a focus on the new Magic Society version of GISELLE. GISELLE finally receiving her first seasonal character, now marking the end, but maybe the beginning of more to be fair, of all the Bambis in seasonal outfits. And we said it before on the channel, all 5 Bambis are popular and you know Caleb are never going to miss an opportunity to put them in a seasonal outfit. And in the case for GISELLE, it might seem like she is a fan favorite at Caleb, mainly due to the 2 releases this character has been given. The previous version of GISELLE was a very strong character with a lot of unique things about her, especially as she did introduce the Dominate status element. She was given an EX skill, she had overall good strong attacks, good skills. The character itself honestly didn't have many flaws. And what we're going to see today is kind of the same thing. This character is almost the exact same as the previous GISELLE, just with a few different skills and strong attacks, but most importantly just in a different design. Both this GISELLE and the previous one are Sorry Killer Plus units. They are technically the best lead for the respective guild quest phase, the ranged and melee Sorry guild quests. They're both the limit breaker character of the month, so they're really good in there. That's where Dominate as a status element really does shine. And one thing we see criticized on a lot of units, although at my point I'm kind of over it, is, certain characters being given guild quest skills. And what you're going to see is that GISELLE doesn't have any guild quest skills. So when we recap this character at the end, you're going to see a very powerful character. But with that said, GISELLE is a Mind Quincy Stamrator with the Sorry Killer Plus ability. For the most part, in this showcase, we are going to try the character as special level 1. We have removed all the important damage transcendent slots. However, I can't remove the 6 slot. And because they've already fed the duplicates into this character, at least in the sake for guild quest content, my soul bomb will be hitting a tad bit harder, so it might not fully represent a 1-5 GISELLE, at least when it comes to soul bomb damage. When it comes to strong attack damage, the character is performing like your potential GISELLE if you have a special level 1. But let's have a look at the skill set that she does have, because she is quite stacked in. So first up, she has Frenzy plus 2, an 80% spiritual pressure boost upon inflicting a status ailment, which in this case she can apply Dominate plus. Similar once more to the previous GISELLE, this character does have an EX attack, and the attack itself is an AoE around it, but it has like an 80% chance to apply Dominate, so even if you are up against non-Soripers, because right now she only ever has her increased status chance against Soripers, this EX skill is basically a guaranteed status proc for the most part, and ensures that no matter what, you're going to have that 10-second 80% spiritual pressure boost. To go alongside that, though, we have an 80% strong attack damage increase, with an additional 20% strong attack damage that you do give to any mind attribute character. So essentially 100% Berserker, 80% spiritual pressure boost with Frenzy plus 2, and upon inflicting a status ailment, at least to dominated enemies, similar to the previous GISELLE and also Shinji, she will then do 100% more damage. That's not all though, because you then also get an additional 30% damage increase. In this case, you can give it to every Quincy in your team, and this is against any enemy that is inflicted with a status ailment. So damage output strictly, we have Frenzy plus 2, 100% Berserker, and 130% more damage to dominated enemies. That in of itself is actually very powerful. And in a way, this is what you want to see with cool characters, right? You don't all the time, again, I'm kind of over it, but I know a lot of people don't want to see guild quest skills. They don't want to see skills restricted to a certain game mode. Overall, for your favorite characters, you want to see good strong attacks, good visuals. In the case for a seasonal, good design, and also most importantly, just good damage output that isn't restricted to other parts of the game. And that essentially is what we have here with this particular version of GISELLE. Now, in terms of how to best build GISELLE, like with any Quincy, we're going to be using a Quincy Cross, a Fortification Pill, and also a Cape Fastener, all with 30% spiritual pressure. Give GISELLE your best links. In my case, I'm using Hikone and also Toshiro, giving us more recharge and more strong attack damage only when at full stamina. And then we also have Chad, the free Senkamon character, giving us recharge and more damage at full stamina. Bonus abilities you can change around like always. I'm going to go with full stamina damage and also long stride. When we take it into guild quest content, it will be full stamina and SP. If you want to use an epic rage, you can go full stamina and weaken defense. And usually for my characters, that's what I do. I switch between the 3, but you're always using full stamina. The second one is either long stride, SP, focus, or weaken defense. Alright then, so first up, let's take GISELLE into Links or Trials just to get a good demonstration of how this character's strong attack kit does work. So, her SA1 is going to be a vacuum attack that groups everyone in together. Her SA2 is going to be a lunge forward with some pretty good AoE to it. Very similar attack that we have seen in the past, But I think the best part about Giselle is the just animation itself, right? I think that's the best part about this entire banner as a whole. Kayla did some really creative stuff for these characters, and what we're seeing here with this Giselle, in a way, is kind of a sneak peek of what we can potentially expect with a Vostandig Giselle, right? Because we're definitely getting some elements from her Vostandig incorporated into this character with the skeletons and the goofy sound effects, for example. Then we use the EX skill. Does a lot of damage, to be fair, and it also has some pretty good AoE around her, which I think is actually really good. So SA1 into the 3. The SA3 looks alright. I think the SA3 could have looked a bit better in my opinion, but again, it's not much of a deal breaker. But I really do like the look of that SA2 where we kind of just teleport onto a bunch of skeletons. Now, in this quest in particular, we don't have any killer against any enemies, so we don't have our increased Starsman chance, but you're going to see it for the most part, some pretty smooth gameplay. The SA3 is, I think, a joke attack, though, to be fair, so I can't really hate on it too much. You have the skeleton get up close into the screen, and then it... I think the idea of the SA3 is that the skeleton's hitting the screen. I think that is the idea of it. So, you know, I actually do like the SA3. It's kind of funny. The skeleton skulls are just flying all over the place. And then that one just happened to, unfortunately, hit the screen. But we can go ahead and use the soul bomb. And of course, we do soul bomb all the way through. That could be because my Giselle's special move level has been leveled up, but I would assume at 1 out of 5, you're also going to do similar enough damage. But for our first attempt, we got a 1 minute and 53 second playtime. Just trying to demonstrate the character's attacks. I think she has good attacks. It makes for smooth gameplay. There's not really a single bad attack in here, right? And in terms of the stars, Giselle does have Dominate, which we'll showcase in the next quest if we possibly can. But Dominate's not really that useful, in my opinion, outside of Limit Breaker. But it does have the benefit of having the enemies not being able to attack you for like 10 plus seconds, which I think is really good. But let's see if we actually can get a good look at the Dominate status summon in this quest. It would more so only be against the bosses. So in this case, did we inflict it? We didn't, but our damage is high enough anyway that we're pretty much going to two-shot the bosses despite never having killer in this quest. But yeah, like I said already, I'm a big fan of the visuals for this character. I've always wanted a seasonal Giselle since she was the last of the Bambis to be given a seasonal character. I kind of wanted a Halloween one, but this is basically that in a nutshell. And I think Killa did a pretty good job incorporating her whole abilities in the Vostandig into an actual character. With a good strong attack hit, good damage output too, I really can't complain. But you can kind of see here that Neliel can't attack us because she's been dominated. And while she is attacking, she is damaging herself and also could damage the allies around her. Now, in this case, it's not too noteworthy, but when you go into Limit Breaker, which we can't demonstrate fully in this video because the difficult Limit Breaker quest isn't out just yet. But in that quest, the enemies do a lot of damage to themselves and each other, which makes it a really good status in my opinion. But going back into it, let's just soul bomb once more, get that swirl, and then nuke all the way through. And again, we haven't even had time to even use the EX attack all that much, but it's an extra attack. It doesn't do anything special besides inflict status elements. So whenever you're down on strong attack, you can just use it and likely one-shot the boss. Let me actually use that next quest. So in this case, we're getting faster, 1 minute and 12 second clear time. One thing that might be a bit noteworthy with Giselle as a character is that she's a really good mind unit. The mind attribute as a whole has been kind of lacking some really good characters to the point that I'm expecting the anniversary to actually give us a mind character. And I still think that's the case even with Giselle's existence. But look at that damage on against Iban. Really good right there. We can probably soul bomb here. There we go. But yeah, Mind's like last a really good character. More so near the end of the year, to be fair. I keep taking damage for some reason. We're just Guild Quest units, right? Characters that are sure good, but maybe not so good outside of Guild Quests. The two recent end-of-year Mind units were Christmas... What was the name? Retsu and also Bankai Rukia, right? Honestly, two good units, but again, Guild Quest skills. And then going here, let's summon once more. Could have cleared time faster. I did take some damage, unfortunately. But even with that, we probably cleared still in under a minute. That's the main goal for these, right? And yeah, we cleared it in 54 seconds. So we can very easily get a sub 50. Just don't make the same mistake I did, just walking right in front of an enemy and not using a strong attack. And keep in mind, obviously, that's without killer. If there are any story players, you're then doing 40% more damage, which obviously is very noteworthy. So next up, let's take Giselle into the ultimate Kenpachi epic raid, where luckily this time around, despite us also being a bonus, getting that 3 times damage output, we also do have Sorry per Killer Plus, so we have Killer against Kenpachi. It's actually quite fortunate in general, all 3 new characters here have Killer against the epic raid boss. Now, with that in mind, let's also address the elephant in the room that affects this character. It affected the previous Giselle, it affected Parasol Shinji, and will continue to affect every upcoming character with Dominate status element unless they get a second status element alongside Dominate. Because what you will see here is that due to the way Domination does work, it just has no effect on the epic raid boss. And what that unfortunately does mean is that you cannot inflict a status element. So for a character like this that is dependent on inflicting status elements, at least in epic raid content, we can't get our 80% spiritual pressure boost. We can't get our 130% extra damage. So it's just the unfortunate thing that we kind of have to accept when it comes to characters like this, that, yeah, they're just not going to be able to inflict status elements. But I guess on the brighter side, thanks to the fact that we basically have 100% Berserker built into the character with Frenzy Plus 2, it's not that bad. It's definitely noticeable, but especially right now when you are a bonus with Killer, you can make it work. So with that in mind, we're going with the exact same build that we have been using throughout the entire video, but we do have 3 Toshiro familiars giving 60% strong attack damage and also 60% more damage at full stamina. Alright then, so Demon of Battle, let's see how this does go. At this point, there's like no point of us not spamming our strong attacks because we're never going to... Oh, let's dodge out the way. We're never going to inflict the status element. So damage output wise though, it's decent enough considering we're at a massive disadvantage here. I don't even know how many runs I'm going to do here. But let's go ahead and use our sub bomb. So we do apply weakened defense, so at least we can get that extra 30% damage. Strong attack kit wise for epic raids though is relatively good. You do have to be a tad bit careful. Special moves right now glitching out because we are currently on PC. But the lunge does lunge you forward. The SA1 does briefly lock you in place. So keep that in mind when using this character. But right now, at least for this epic raid, the attack patterns themselves are super easily dodged. And you can just spend more time using your strong attacks than actually dodging the attacks themselves. So at least for the most part, when it comes right now, we have 2 Giselles in our lobby. Easy 30-second clear time, but this epic raid in itself isn't really all that difficult. But let's go ahead and do one more run, right? No need to continue showcasing a multiple times an epic raid when this essentially is Giselle at her worst. But hey, right now, not too bad. We're still able to clear relatively fast, especially if we have some decent teammates. The SA3 that actually did some pretty good damage. SA1, again, pretty easy to dodge all these attacks here. Let's stay up here. All the summons are going off. Not like we actually need them, to be fair, but it's fine. So we're doing like 5... Is that 50k or 500k per hit? I'm not too sure. I would assume 500k per hit there. And we also have the EX skill. Again, it's just unfortunate. I would have really loved if there was a way for characters with Dominate to still inflict status elements, despite it having no effect. But unfortunately right now, until we start getting double status element with Dominate, these characters just cannot inflict status elements in epic raid content. Dominate as a status element is going to be rare as is. Likely we're only ever going to see it on a few select characters, maybe the occasional seasonal. So not only is Dominate going to be a rare status element in general, it's going to be rare for us to see Dominate paired with another status element. But the day that does come, that will be the first Dominate character that's actually really good in epic raid content. Because Giselle, for example, if she was able to inflict a status element, we would have been getting like maybe 10-second clear time, especially as a bonus with killer effects. Killer plus, mind you. And in a way, it's fine as is. Epic raid content, you're usually just using characters with bonus or link shot farmers. So it's not that big of a deal, but it does suck in general to see characters like this held back because of the way the character stars them and does work. Next up though, let's jump into Guild Quest. Now there's kind of a lot to say about this character and the current state of the Melee Swiper Guild Quest before we showcase the team and jump into the run. So first and foremost, when it comes to the Melee Swiper Guild Quest, it's very competitive. We have some of the best characters in the game featured in this phase. Despite almost being 2 years old, Yachiru is still an amazing lead, and a lot of people have Yachiru and maybe even True Shiga Ichigo duped out. Basby, since he is a mid-month character, already seen as a filler in the recent banner, is only going to become more available in the future, and someone like Basby can actually get very similar, if not better scores than Giselle. If you saw a before you summon video going over the Last Noches website, a very good website for Guild Quest scores by the way, at first glance, it does appear that Giselle is going to be the better character because she has more damage. But one thing that I personally didn't consider is that Basby, even though his damage numbers are lower, this is excluding buffs. Now, if we start talking about an actual good team, likely you are going to use 9th Anniversary Grammy with a Mugetsu soul trait, and that is going to be a lot more impactful for someone like Basby when compared to Giselle. Because what we're going to see here, right, is this character has a 20% strong attack damage buff to every mined character. Because of that, it does not stack with Mugetsu's strong attack damage buff. It does, however, stack with Gremmy's Quincy strong attack damage buff, but that's essentially 20% strong attack damage that Giselle is missing had this been a different buff. Additionally, this 30% more damage to any Quincy in your team is a great skill to have, but it clashes with Gremmy's buff. If this was to mine characters instead, it would have actually stacked alongside Grammy, and had you used Grammy with Mugetsu in the team, Giselle would have gotten a bigger damage output. So on paper, Giselle is better than Basby, but Basby gets a lot better when you use 9th Annie Grammy and Mugetsu in the team. So with that said, I think right now the best way to get the most out of Giselle in Guild Quest is using a team like this. And to be fair, this team does work a bit better because Grammy, this version of Grammy, the Christmas one, is a Quincy that gets buffed from Giselle, right? So even though this skill right here does hurt her when paired with 9th Annie Grammy, it does allow you to make a team without 9th Anniversary Grammy to a certain extent. So in slot 1, we are going to go the Spiritual Pressure build. When you're 1 out of 5 and you're trying to go for like that max damage output and trying to get the best Guild Quest score, you likely do want to go with a focus build. However, again, I can't remove that 6th slot. I'm not going to reroll for focus, so we have to go with Spiritual Pressure. But with that, we have the Quincy Cross, we have the Heavy Bag, all with 30% Spiritual Pressure, and we are also using the Sword Per Killer sticker. With that, we're going with these 3 soul traits. And then we're going with 20% full stamina damage and 400 focus as bonus abilities. Grammy, on the other hand, is going to go with a Golden Chappie, a Sorry Per Killer sticker, and also a Heavy Bag, all with 30% spiritual pressure, all with 30% attack, and then we're giving him as much normal attack damage as possible. And Grammy's a special character because both his SA1 and SA3 do actually supply a attack boost. Now, for our first character on the team, we are using Ichigo. Not the best build here. I should use a Heavy Bag, but I don't have a second one. So we are just going with this build right here. We're using very similar links, right? But the reason why we are using Ichigo is because this character can apply weakening and lacerate, but more so weakening. So his transcendent investment doesn't matter all that much. But one thing that's great about Giselle is that she can inflict dominates plus. So in a certain situation, if Ichigo uses his strong attack, he could apply his weakening, and then with that, Giselle can get 50% more damage. It might be a bit reset heavy, but in some cases, it will allow you to beat a wave using 2, sometimes 1 strong attack. So really, Ichigo's only here just to apply the weakening, and he has an increased chance to do so that's his purpose on the team. So with that in mind, let's see how it does go. Now, I will be honest, I haven't had much testing with this character at 1.5. I've more so been using Giselle at 5 out of 5, which in all honesty, from what I'm looking at, doesn't even make that much of a difference. We'll see. So SA2 into the SA1. Grammy got his normal attacks. We just got to make sure we are taking down all the enemies here. Let's use the EX into the Soul Bomb. Grammy has locked in, going into Ishin, SA2, into the 1. They go down super quick. You'll actually see there with that strong attack 1 that the boss died super fast because Ichigo did also apply weakening. So if you are someone that doesn't care about Guild Quest scores and you just want to have the easiest time possible, Giselle's actually going to be really good. We already have compared it to Baz because I think they are very similar, especially when it comes to Guild Quest scores. I think at 1 out of 5, if you don't have like the best built account, Giselle is going to be the safest character to use because this Guild Quest phase does kind of lack crowd control. Even though Giselle doesn't have Poise Break, right, she does apply Dominate. And what you'll see here is that the characters basically take no damage, right? Our characters. Someone like Yachiru, someone like Basby, lots of characters in this phase, they can't apply Freeze or Paralysis, so you're kind of just brute forcing your way through it. And as a new account, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. Unless you are using Ichigo, to be fair. Ichigo does have Lacerate, so that does actually let you get the protection from the fact that enemies can't attack when lacerated. So if you are struggling from enemies having poise, if you are finding that your team is not being able to stay at full stamina and you need that extra safety net, a character like Giselle will be the most beneficial for you because the Dominate just ensures that they're doing no damage to you. In that case, for our very first run, not the greatest run, but still maybe an example of a bad run, we still got 44 seconds remaining and also beat all 4 extra levels. But yeah, essentially the idea is just to go in and spam any strong attack that you can. So Ichigo does get the status proc. We really do just one-shot an entire wave. He's in a good position right now, so this might be good. Gremio is in a good position too. Go ahead, SA3. You can see there that you can actually almost go all the way through. Look at that. That was beautiful. And then SA1 into the 2. Basically a 49-second run, 47 seconds there. And that's basically the main reason why we are using Ichigo in the team. So in ways, her having the strong attack damage or the extra 30% damage that she can give to characters like Remy is actually good in the long run to a certain extent. Because in a way, you don't need to use Remy. But then again, it wouldn't have been too bad. Now, in this case, enemies do start walking around when they are dominated, but it's not that big of a deal, to be fair. So we got the SP boost. We can also, again, stack that with Ichigo's if he wants to inflict the weakening or lacerate. You know, we can stack our dominate on top of it and clear a lot faster. But for the most part, Gremmy's going in here. Perfect character to pair with Giselle, in my opinion. Ishin going into the corner and clear with 19 seconds to spare. So we're getting a tad bit faster, 47 seconds remaining. And our goal for the most part, at least with 1 out of 5 characters, especially now, you know, mid-2025, it really is to see if they can get 50 seconds remaining. If we can get that, that's going to be great. Perfect strong attack usage there. That is why Ichigo is in the team. Going well thus far. Let's SA3, look at that. Very, very good. And then SA2 into the EX. Almost made... I made some mistakes there. Definitely the best strong attacks that we did use. But that right there was 49 seconds. And we aren't resetting, right? For showcases like this, I don't always want to reset for the best score. Because if it takes me like 3 hours to get a good score, that's not a good representation of the character itself. I like going in without resetting all too much. Just to see what we are looking at when we just have no, you know, resets. And in this case, look, for the most part, we're able to get a very easy 50-second playtime. Almost, right? Now, I have seen this character get 53 seconds. Oh, hold on. Almost took advantage of the weakening. We did some pretty good damage there. But I have seen this character get 53 seconds remaining at 1 out of 5, which is actually really good. That's the one you'll see with characters like this. Unfortunately, some leftover mobs there. SA2. Pretty good range. I don't dislike the strong attacks that she has here. You do have to make sure if you are using that SA3 though, if you are using that SA2, you position yourself well to take the enemies out from behind you. Because it is a launch into an AoE. But in this case, it's around 45 plus seconds remaining. Let's attempt that again. Oh, that's really good. Unfortunately, oh no, it actually worked out quite well. So again, that's the idea why we use someone like Ichigo. Now, Ichigo did actually use his SA1 there, which would have been really good for us. But unfortunately, both me and Ichigo, from the looks of it, did not inflict the status on him. So going into Ishin here, you can use the SA2 or 1. Oh, never mind. I prefer using the SA2 to save the SA3 for like that. But yeah, it looks like we're getting 49 seconds remaining. Let's just keep it going though. And I think I'm relatively happy with that score for the time being. Because this isn't a Guild Quest focused video, right? I don't want to spend too much time on Guild Quest. But I think at 1 out of 5, Giselle has proven herself to be a pretty good character. But I do think you need that maybe extra bit of support right now, potentially, to compete against your maybe max transcended Yachiru or your Bazby, who I think is the better character when it comes in mind with Boss from Grammy. Now, I've already gone ahead and max transcended my Giselle, so what we're going to do in our next run is showcase a run that I did get with my Giselle at max transcended, and it's using the exact same team. The only difference is that Giselle has more stats, so therefore clears faster. But the thing that I'm realizing right now is that in all honesty, a 5-5 Giselle doesn't make that much of a difference, especially with this team right here, where you have the weakening proc. Like, even if you're 1-5, if Ichigo applies weakening and you use a strong attack, whether you're 1-5, 2-5, or 5-5, you're one-shotting. You're killing with that one strong attack. So going into this run in particular, this is the run that I did do with my max to the team, and the run for the most part was almost perfect. I think the only times it briefly could be improved upon, I believe it was wave 2 and also wave 5, where Ichigo didn't apply weakening straight away. So with that in mind, even though we basically killed with one strong attack almost each wave, it didn't fully one-shot. We maybe needed some leftover damage from Ichigo or some leftover damage from someone like Remy. But like I said already, I've seen 1 out of 5 Giselles get 53 seconds, so it's definitely possible. If anything, when you have this character more transcended, so more specialty level, it just becomes a bit more reliable. I mean, I personally max transcended this Giselle because I like the character. But at the same time, she has allowed me to score relatively high in this guild quest phase, so I don't really regret it whatsoever. Because at the end of the day, for your favorite character, that's what you want, right? You want them to be an overall good character everywhere, and if they can get good guild quest scores, it's even better. And obviously, when you do clear the first 5 waves super fast, going into the last 4 relatively easy, I think I had plenty of time to spare, especially if I don't take any damage myself, that if they ever add 5 extra levels in the future, we are going to be absolutely golden with a team like this. Now, this team again did have 2 max transcendent characters, Giselle and also Ichigo, but in a way it can be replicated with less transcendent. It's just going to require a bit more resetting, because it really does come down to whether Ichigo wants to use a strong attack at the right time and if he can apply status augments. But honestly, if the team works, it works. I can't complain about it. Next up though, let's try Giselle in Limit Breaker quest. So obviously her strong attack kit is good enough as is. To Limit Breaker, it'll be perfectly fine. Especially since you will be doing 40% more damage to these sword bit enemies. Now, as of right now, for this video, we are in the beginner's Limit Breaker quest, so we don't really get to fully demonstrate the power of Dominate in this video like we have in the past for just the previous Giselle and also Shinji. Because like I said at the start of the video, or maybe earlier, I'm not sure exactly when, Dominate is really a Limit Breaker status augment. It does have its benefits in guild quests where it stops the enemies from attacking you, but it really is a status augment that excels in terms of damage output for this game mode. But not right now when the enemies are basically one-shot, even when we're special level 1 out of 5. In 2 weeks' time, on the 11th, I believe, we are getting the more difficult Limit Breaker quest, so we will definitely be able to get a good look at Giselle in that game mode on that time, when the time comes, right? Because when you do apply Dominate, the enemies themselves start to deal upwards to 1 million damage in the later half, right? And that's when Dominate can be a bit more fun, because in other parts of the game, you know, the enemies themselves don't do nearly as much damage. Like, can we even try it right now? Just by using our normal attacks. And even if we do inflict it, I'm not sure the enemies themselves deal enough damage to each other. But usually in a normal quest, they're doing like a couple 100,000 per tick. So it does have that extra bit of usability. So her damage output in Limit Breaker, when she does meet all the rules, as she is one of the few only mind sword killers, it's going to be really high, but it's going to get even higher. Because you have that extra millions of damage that the enemies themselves are basically dealing to each other, right? Now in this case, with this team, we can get to 25, but again, I just wanted to demonstrate the Dominate status augment, which again, right now, we can't fully do. But come back on the channel on like the 11th, 12th, whenever we do get the next Limit Breaker quest, and you're going to be able to see how good Giselle really is in Limit Breaker. At least this particular version. The last one was good, so you can definitely expect this one to be good too. And last but not least, just like the asking video, whenever we do get new characters, I do want to try them out in mission set 3 for stage 1, 2, and also 3. And potentially stage 4, 5, and 6 in the future. Giselle, to be fair, out of all the stun raiders, is one of the hardest hitting stun raiders, so very likely you are going to be able to use her in all 3 stages for mission set 3, the final and more likely the more difficult one. So for stage 1, mission set 3, it is range attack damage times 2, so unfortunately we aren't getting that damage buff. It'll be fine though. But we have 60 seconds to clear this quest only using 1 accessory. This is only stage 1, so it is going to be one of the more easier ones. And damage output here is not going to be much of an issue. Let's go and use the EX attack, because that in of itself is actually really good. It's got some nice AoE to it, and we haven't spoke much about it, but the EX skill does have some really good visuals too. It's a bunch of tombs or gravestones that just pop up from the floor, I guess. I like the look of it. So here we go, going into the final stage. Ichigo is up next. He's a Sorry Bomb. So this SA1 is pretty much going to inflict Dominate. There we go, and he starts damaging himself. He doesn't know where to go. He's hurting himself. He's damaging himself. And then we finish up with the 2. A pile of bones over Ichigo's body in stage 1, mission set 3. Quite trivial for a character like Giselle. For stage 2, mission set 3, this was a quest that Askin couldn't beat despite having killer. It's honestly one of the more difficult ones here, mainly due to the fact that as using a spiritual pressure unit, it's a character that's damage output is tied behind the strong attacks they do have. We can only bring 1 link, so it does make it a tad bit awkward. But fortunately for us, we are up against Soribas, so in this case, Giselle might actually be one of the better characters for a stage like this, which for most characters are going to struggle a tad bit. Let's use the EX skill. That's one thing worth noting, right? The EX skill quite literally is an additional attack that you can use to help you clear the stage when you are lacking that cooldown. Let's use the SA1. get into a good position, SA3, and I think this is the last wave. So going into the final boss, we have 30 seconds to go up against Yoruichi. I've never actually experienced us inflicting dominates when the boss decides to soul bomb. Does she soul bomb? Oh, she ended up taking herself down. So, if you are struggling on a stage 2, mission set 3, Giselle is actually going to be one of the better characters to use here. And I find stage 2, mission set 3 harder than stage 3, mission set 3. So it's actually a pretty good thing that she can beat this relatively fast. And then lastly, stage 3, mission set 3, relatively easy stage for any character here because we do have a strong attack damage buff that's doubling our damage. And we also get to use 3 links. So even though we are forced to bring no accessories, honestly, that's not much of an issue. Now, I will say I'm actually making it hard on myself because my controller just died. So we have to use mouse and keyboard, which is definitely not my preferred way of playing. But with a character like Giselle, we can make it work. So let's back up. Actually, we don't take any too much damage or any damage whatsoever. We can take like a hit or two. Go be careful of these stars on the floor though. And it seems like we have plenty of time to spare. Again, my character's summon is actually relatively higher. So it will be hitting harder than a normal character at 1-5. But we can use the EX skill. And as you see there, great way of inflicting dominate against an enemy where we don't have killer against. So even though we could have made it easier, used our summon there. Because my character is special level 5, I didn't want to. And that's where the EX attack comes in. Whenever you're going against an enemy that has a lot of HP that isn't a sorry bomb, where you there don't have your increased stat element chance, that's what the EX is for, to pretty much give you that spiritual pressure boost and then 130% more damage. So Giselle is a great character in any Sankamon quest for the Quincy one, whether that's now or in the future. Likely she will be able to be used in any upcoming Sankamon stage. But overall, in conclusion, what do I think about this Giselle? I'm biased, but I think she's overall a very strong character and a very fun character too. Like I already mentioned previously in the video, I've been waiting for a seasonal Giselle because we knew it was going to happen since all the other Bambis got seasonal characters. So with that in mind, the design that this character got, the artwork, the visuals, I think are some of the best seasonal designs we've ever seen in this game. I love the fact that they take elements from her Voe standing and combine that into a really cool necromancer. The character itself, for me personally, is almost a perfect character. Like, I've been wanting a new mind character, especially a sword killer, and that is why, besides the fact that it is Giselle, I did go ahead and use special move sources on it. And pretty much anywhere you take this character, with the exception of epic raids, because again, you can't unfortunately apply dominate over there, she performs like a very good character. This, like I already mentioned, is something that a lot of fans of certain characters want to see for their favorites. A very good character, good visuals, good strong attacks, an EX skill, and no skills restricted to a certain game modes. At the same time though, because she doesn't have Guild Quest skills, I've seen people criticize her performance in Guild Quest content. Despite her being able to still get a 50-second playtime, relatively easy too, might I add, albeit it does need the support of a character like Ichigo to apply weakening. In a way, this character gives more reasoning to own and work on True Shika Ichigo, which isn't a bad thing in my opinion. But you know, in past character showcases, especially when it came to Ichigo and Okira, who released like 2 weeks prior, I in a way complained, not so much, but I would have wanted those characters to be given non-Guild Quest skills and got what Giselle basically got. So I'm not going to sit here and criticize and complain about her performance in Guild Quest because she wasn't given Guild Quest skills. At that point, no one's ever going to win. And I'd be a hypocrite, in a way, if I complained about her not having Guild Quest skills, because I've been complaining about that for other characters, right? And like I said, at this point, I'm kind of over it. Whether a character gets Guild Quest skills or not, I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal anymore. As long as the character has good visuals, they're a good and fun character to play with, I'm honestly perfectly happy, and that pretty much describes this character in a nutshell. As a Giselle fan, it's been great to have the Technique version of Giselle, which exceeded everyone's expectations, and Caleb only went ahead and done it again, but in a way made it better with this version of Giselle. At this point, I'm kind of scared to see what they are going to do with a Voe standing Giselle, because ain't no way Caleb are going to do what they did twice with an upcoming Giselle. Surely at one point, Giselle is going to have a normal attack damage character for Guild Quest, because she's already received more than most Quincy's, maybe even including Grammy, has in this game. Overall though, solid character, very happy to have her, and in the comments below, let me know what you lads think about the Magic Society version of Giselle.